Well, folks, I went and bashed up my Inductrix FPV Plus pretty badly, and now I need to replace the frame. So let's go ahead and do that. To the FPV layer. Well, here we are in the FPV layer, and a lot of you are saying, your FPV layer looks a lot like where you just were. That's because FPV is magical, and it can happen anywhere. Anyways, let's get to work. Ta-da! Welcome. You are now looking through Timmy Vision. Ta-da! Okay, one of the most important things when starting a job is picking the right tools. This is no, 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 maybe, strong maybe, definitely, definitely, yes. And then, of course, we need what we're fixing and what we're going to repair it with. Okay, so the first thing I like to do before I start working on something is I take a close look at what I'm fixing and look at how everything is orientated and placed on there already so that I can remember that when I'm putting it back together. Okay. First step is removing these two tiny screws here that hold the canopy on. They're very tiny. Come on, little screwdriver. You can do it. Alright, and be very careful not to lose them. Ah, sneaky, look at you, sticking to the motor. That's happened to me before. Spend 20 minutes looking for something that's stuck to the motor. Ooh, there we go. Come on, buddy. Come on. And again to the motor. And just a little tip here. Rub your screwdriver on the motor. Alright, get a little magnetism on there, and then that way your other screws will stick to your screwdriver. So now we flip this over, and there's the camera and VTX. Let's go ahead and carefully unplug this and set this aside here. Okay. Next thing we have is the LED on the back here. Let's go ahead and pull this out. It's just in a nice little slot. And let's go ahead and pull the battery lead through. Okay, now before we start unscrewing the final two screws that hold the control board on, what I like to do is turn this over and unplug the motors so that way the control board can come off freely once you unscrew it. Okay, so you just gently unplug these. There we go. Perfect. Let's go ahead and unscrew these two final screws here and remove the control board. Thank goodness for magnetism. Perfect. That makes it a lot easier. Now just be very careful when you remove the board. You don't want to lose these rubber grommets. They're very important to keep. They help to maintain vibration off of the control board so that the flight characteristics are good. Keep that aside. Okay. And now when removing the motors, you'll notice that this little plastic part up here on the housing, I like to use that in order to shimmy. You just put the screwdriver in there and use a little leverage to pop them down. And then you push. Get them there. Go to the next one. Okay. Be very mindful of the wires and leads going into the motors. You don't want to damage those as you're popping these off. Okay, now that we have that here, just use something to hold on to the top part of the plastic, and then without touching where the battery lead, the motor leads go, push them through. Alright, I like to go one at a time. That way I can start putting them onto the new frame. So make sure that this is lined up properly and put this in here. You want to try and get it seated in here properly. It's a little difficult to get it first. There you go. Once it's seated properly, you just make sure that the wires for the motor are out of the way, and then you hold right here, and with your thumb you press it into place, making sure that the wires don't get scrunched up in between the motor and the top here, or the bottom actually, since that's the way it's supposed to go. Okay, let's do the rest of these. And again, trying to get this seated properly. There we go. Once it's in there. Oh, and good thing. I noticed one of my wires is exposed, so I'll make sure to touch that up with a little bit of liquid tape, which is nice and flexible, and will keep that protected. Okay, and again, seating that properly. There we go. Once it's in there, hold the wires out of the way, pinch it in, and do the last one. Alright, that frame has seen better days. Yeah, that explains a lot of my problems. Okay, seat that in there properly, and go ahead and pinch it in. Perfect. Okay, now let's put the board on here. This, if you'll notice, has a convenient little arrow pointing forward, but if you'll also recall that the LED strip was in the back, so that lets us know our orientation. Ooh, we're going to need you, little grommet. Get back here. Okay, let's go ahead and put that on there carefully. Make sure that it gets seated on the little pegs. And these are just plastic pegs that you're going to be screwing into, so keep that in mind when you tighten the screws. Let's go ahead and get the 2 screws that were for underneath the frame. They're the ones with the wider top. And again, thank goodness for magnetism. There we go, holding that in place. Okay, now when you tighten these, just finger snug. You don't want to over tighten, because then you'll strip the plastic and you won't be able to hold the board properly. Okay. Whoops. Let's move this wire out of the way there. Alrighty. And again, you just finger snug. Right about there. That's good. Perfect. So let's go ahead and take the LED and put it back in here. There's a little tiny slot for it to slide into perfectly. So you just put it right in there, and you push it down. And it fits perfectly in there. Go ahead and push the battery lead down through the frame so that it's sticking out on the bottom where it's supposed to be. Okay, and then at this point, let's go ahead and flip this upside down and plug in our motors. Make sure that you plug them in properly. There we go. Okay, there we go. And plug this one in. And there we go. Now what we want to do is run these wires through the little slots in the plastic, which do an excellent job of holding them in place so that they don't get snagged up by the motors and the propellers, and helps to avoid, where's that snag? See the exposed wire I have right there? It helps to avoid that sort of thing. So let's go ahead and tuck these in. There we go. Tuck that in. There we go. Tuck that in. There you go. Then run it through the slot. Perfect. Okay, do this one. Okay, and run it through the slot. There we go. And the last one. Right here. There we go. And run it through the slot. Perfect. That does a good job of holding these wires in place. Excellent. Okay, so let's turn this over and put this on. Now, if you'll recall, there's the arrow pointing forward, the LED strip in the back, and the battery lead comes out of the back. So this faces this way. Go ahead and plug this in back in properly. And then ensure that all the wires are tucked under the canopy and not getting crunched as you screw these down with the 2 final screws. And again, finger tighten. You're not trying to crank or ratchet these screws down. Okay, and again, finger tighten. Perfect, and that's it. We're done. Okay, so I just wanted to show you guys how I'm going to repair that one exposed wire right there. I'm going to use a little bit of this liquid tape. It's really good. It's liquid electrical tape. And so I flip this over, and let's go ahead and see this one exposed wire right there. So all I'm going to do is take just a dibby-dib of this. And there we go. Just a little bit underneath there. That's perfect. Okay, so now I just let that dry, and that wire is going to be good as gold. It's going to be nice and protected, and moisture won't get in there, and it's going to be just like it was completely covered. So perfect. Now you guys have seen how to replace a frame on the Inductrix FPV Plus. I'm ready to go fly the red whoop. How about you?